This is the real bad juice cast.
Now, Sam, are you a horror movie like fan or just of this series?
No,
What's a good movie for you to sit down and watch?
definitely. I'm a horror buff. Yeah, I love horror movies.
Wonderful. What are some of your favorites?
Oh wow, there's so many.
Depending
Uh,
on which day of the week, you know.
let's start by the classics. I think
Mm,
Halloween, of course, John Carpenter one, not
mm.
the Rob Zombie crap. Or I mean, I went to see the new one this week, and I thought it was pretty good. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I've yet to see it. I'm
Uh,
actually going to go see it next week.
yeah, me and Lots have, and we both pretty much were like, "Damn," like it
Yeah, it's
was.
like
No, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I do prefer Halloween 2 as a direct sequel to the original, but I think it's pretty good. It's a good film. I liked
Right.
it.
I like the second one as well, just on the aspect that it picks up exactly where the second one rips off.
Yeah,
Like when you see the shape walking down the street and you got Loomis, I shot him
Yeah.
6 times in the heart. He's not human. I love that how it picked up right afterwards. Halloween's definitely a favorite franchise of mine, even though I only like three of the movies.
Yeah, if we're talking about like just like the Michael Myers movies, I'd say Halloween, Halloween 2, and then Halloween 4 I thought was pretty good. And then Halloween
Oh,
5 was I didn't like Halloween 5.
ugh.
Halloween
And
6
then
tried to explain Michael's reason, but it just was like blah.
have
And
you seen
then
have you seen the producer's cut of Halloween 6? It's called
no,
Halloween 6. It's called
no.
Halloween 666, and I'll sum this up for you. Allegedly, Michael Myers is supposed to kill every member in his family to
Right.
avoid this Sam Hain thing. So, in the producer's cut of Halloween 6, he basically has sex with Jamie and impregnates her, and she has a child.
Right, I heard about that. Yeah.
Fucking garbage.
And then
I,
and
I,
then and then they did
I was a
H.
fan of Halloween 3.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I am too. I think it's for what it is, it's good. I'm just not
You
talking
know,
about
that
it because.
movie doesn't have a witch in it either.
Oh yeah.
but it's the season though. So
Yeah.
that's enough, right?
It had a witch's mask.
and then
All right, so
H2O, which ignored 4, 5, and 6. I thought that one was pretty good too. A good way to end the franchise.
ugh.
And then
No,
Resurrection came out. Ugh. then,
so
like,
other than Halloween, what else do we watch, Sam?
Okay, going back to the classics again.
We got to
Okay,
hear the classics. I hear classics. I want to hear all of them.
let's see. Halloween, Psycho, The Shining. Um, there's so many. I can't think of. Oh, the Evil Dead, of course. The Evil
It depends on what day of the week.
you've also done a few other edits, right? Like The Vanishing, Sinister, Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Twin Peaks.
Ooh, my ears perked up on Twin Peaks. I definitely got to check this out.
Yeah, it's a fan edit on Firewalk with Me. Like
Hmm,
reinserting the deleted footage on the film. You know,
hmm.
like not all the deleted footage. I mean, just some of it.
Hey, see, fan edits is kind of like a new concept for me. Like I have seen maybe like one or two fan edits, and like the one that I have, and I actually enjoy it a lot, was a fan edit of Dawn of the Dead called the Extended Mall Hours Edition, where they added like a half an hour worth of footage, and it was like, this shit.
But
This is.
that was like an official edit, wasn't it? Like Dario Argento or something.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I just remember coming across it on YouTube, and I watched it, and I was like, I don't remember this, and I don't remember this,
I know
and
there's like three cuts of Dawn of the Dead. There's the theatrical, then there's like an uncut one or whatever, and then there's the
European one.
yeah. So someone could have took footage from a few of those cuts,
That,
I'm sure, and made like
well,
their own version.
that's what the guy did. He took footage from every single release of the movie and compiled it together. The reason why everything got so skewed is because George Romero, to help fund the movie, got funding from Dario Argento,
Yeah.
and this is basically in exchange for the funding. Argento got to cut the movie for the European audience. And obviously, it's a huge market over there, especially in countries like Italy, where horror, it's kind of it's kind of like a mecca for horror over there.
Yeah.
You know what? A very important question. Are you working on anything else, or do you plan on working on any other fan edits?
Not at the time. I mean, I would like to because I like to edit stuff, but
Mhm.
I mean, I just have to, come across a film that doesn't sit well with me, so I can just move things around to make it look sort of better,
You got to be inspired to do it.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, it's just like Sinister, I think it's a good film, but in my opinion, it
Mhm.
could have been better. So I mean, I tried to make it better for me. Not necessarily better. I don't want to sound like a snob. Like, oh, I'm better than the director. No, I'm just saying that my version, I think it fits better for me. For my
I,
viewing.
I absolutely see where you're coming from because I mean, there's times where I'll find stuff, and I mean, I edit videos myself, and it's just like I would have done this differently, you know.
Yeah.
It's like in Friday the 13th Part Two. I'm doing a review for it right now, where the part that always got to me was when she was hiding under the bed, and she fooled Jason, but then the rat came out, and and then that made her pee. And I'm like, but she's such a tough girl. Why would she pee after seeing a mouse after getting chased by him? You think she'd be used to being scared by now. Or maybe the rat peed, so I just cut it and I made it seem like she broke wind under the bed. And that made Jason turn around going, what was that?
Okay.
Sometimes you just have to do things to make it more enjoyable for you or so that it makes sense or even just to flex your editing muscles.
No, yeah. Sometimes it's just like a little thing, like the rat detail that you just said. It's just you're not gonna change the film, just the structure of the film. It's just like a little thing that you're like, let's just take this out.
Right.
Could have done without this.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting thing, and I mean it now that right there in and of itself is another thing. Since we're obviously talking about fan edits here, how hard is it to be able to look at a movie and say I could fan edit this and make it work? It's like, could you watch like Amityville Horror Part 2 of these scenes around, and maybe if I took out the incest storyline, maybe this might be a better movie. Or all in all, you're just gonna have Burt Young wandering around the house, yelling like a grumpy old Italian man.
Or you
It's
get those
just,
people who want to take a movie and edit it in chronological order just because, like Pulp Fiction or something.
ugh. But I mean, that in and of itself is a big job right there. Is just finding a movie that you could look at and say, I could change it and I could make it work. So I mean, hold on a second. I have a knock on the door.
All right.
It's Mike Myers. Don't answer it.
It's the Blair Witch. It
Yes,
was,
definitely Blair Witch.
I was going to say that, well, another film that most people don't like is Prometheus. And I watched Agent Nine's fan edit of that, and he restored like the TED Talk video that was on YouTube and stuff, and he actually went and restored deleted scenes, removed wires, redid the effects, and like actually created a decent movie. I was surprised. I was like, who the hell? Like, because I don't think Ridley Scott edited the movie. I think he has an editor. Like, it's like the editor sure said something. Like, there was actually a nugget of something decent.
You know what's kind of funny about deleted scenes? AVP 1. I still think it's a terrible film, but there's actually a deleted scene that actually gives the Predator some character, and of course it stayed deleted. I wanted that movie to be so good that I even bought the collector's edition that came out, hoping they would have put that scene back in. Alas, they did not. I think Wolfman was taken by the Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Stabbed by Mike.
She was so happy that he liked my edit that now she wants him forever.
Oh my.
What I want to know, Agent Sam, is when you're editing a movie like this, do you ever worry that the end product, like, because you edit in hopes to improve it, do you ever worry while editing it that it might not actually turn out as you hope? Like, do you ever get nervous, like, oh man, I'm putting in all this time and effort. I hope this pays off.
Well, first I do a lot of tests, like let's suppose I'm doing like this very tricky edit. And so I do like many tests to see if the edit that I'm thinking about is going to work. And then I export that portion of the video and then I watch it to see if it's going to look good. So if I think it looks good, like the editing and the audio and etc. So I said, okay. So then I join all the parts and then I watch the whole film. And if it's flowing okay, then fine. But I mean, I do like many tests before I export, the final version of the edit.
Right.
Editing, it's fun. Edit stuff, and even when it works, you still have to watch it like 2,000 times to make sure it works right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, by the time that I finished that edit, I was like, and this is coming from someone that actually enjoyed Blair Witch 2. I was like, I can't stand that movie anymore. Those characters, those voices. I'm like, ah. I just,
Shut up already.
yeah, I mean, I spent like maybe 2 years without watching that film because I just couldn't stand it anymore. I was like, ah.
Oh, I can believe it. I mean, a lot of people say I hate editing. I personally love to edit stuff.
No, yeah, I
Even
love it. I mean, I never did professionally. I never did like a course for anything. I just like bought the software and then I just started to do stuff. Like I went to YouTube and I watched tutorials and then I just started to edit. Like whatever. Let's just do it.
yeah, it's now. Do you mind me asking? I mean, you don't have to because most people don't like to say what they use. What software do you use?
It's the Adobe Premiere. Like
Oh yeah,
the premium.
I'm more of a Sony Vegas person myself. I mean, I started using that when I was like 16, and now it's called Movie Studio or some shit like that. It's the
Yeah.
same thing, and it does its work.
Yeah, I remember when I was like doing some research to see which software I was going to get. I was like, I almost got the Sony Vegas, but then some people said, you might try the Adobe Premiere. It's better. It has more stuff, more features, whatever. So I just got that instead. But I mean, I heard that Sony Vegas is pretty good too.
I can't argue with it. Like I said, I've been using it since I was like 16 years old, and it really boils down to what your preference is. I mean, it doesn't matter what you use as long as you get the job done.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the tedium of it. Oh, a review for the video game Echo the Dolphin, and by the time that I was done with it, I never wanted to see another fucking dolphin as long as I lived.
Yeah, I totally know the feeling. I mean, just remember that I actually enjoy these films that I'm editing. But I mean, when I'm done with it, I'm like, oh, I'm done. I'm like, oh my god,
Finished.
I can't see Blair Witch and Jeffrey Donovan and Twin Peaks and Laura Palmer and Ethan Hawke and Kiefer Sutherland. I mean, just take them
Done
out
with
of
you
my
people.
sight.
Oh yeah, it kills you. You just I never want to see you again. Lots brought up Sega CD actors, and when I was doing the Night Trap review, I actually found out that one of the characters was in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Oh,
Right. Well,
Yeah,
uh,
what we,
well, after
he was
after I
in.
did research of Night Trap, I didn't realize that thing was filmed in like the late '80s for a VHS
Oh yeah,
game, and then they repurposed it for a Sega CD game.
it was called Project Nemo, which means never ever mention outside. It had Dana Plato in it, and it had the voice of Destro from the GI Joe cartoons, and it had the guy that played the Karate Kid in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, and I had no idea. Everyone else just went.
Like, Oh, Lots has to go.
Yep. So it's been good, and I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
Have a good
Okay.
night, Lotzie.
That's it.
Later. Um, what's funny is watching Blowers 2 and watching his performance. If you watch Burn Notice, this actually feels like a character he would play in Burn Notice to like trick other people.
I don't think I ever saw Burn Notice. I don't know
It's pretty good. It's like a spy show mix with a bit of MacGyver esque stuff. Because
I don't know.
they have like
Oh,
they're
okay,
they're
okay.
spies. They have no money. They got to use their their brain power to figure out how to get through situations and stuff.
But MacGyver was MacGyver, and he was MacGyver for a reason.
But I think if you watch Burn Notice, you'd like it.
Damn it!
It's pretty good. Bruce Campbell's in it too, so
Hey, Ashley Williams.
yeah.
What was that movie that I just saw with him in it? My Name is Bruce. That's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I thought it was underrated.
Played, it was a Bruce Campbell movie called My Name is Bruce, and he plays himself, and he was such an asshole.
It was basically like, what if over the top Bruce had to deal with a real Evil Dead type situation?
Pretty much.
I think I heard about that film, but I never saw it. I mean, I remember hearing bad things about it, saying that it was actually kind of embarrassing.
It
I don't know
was
if that's true.
self-referential, it wasn't afraid to poke fun at itself. I mean, the long story short is it's just these teenage kids. One of them is a huge Bruce Campbell fan. They take a seal off of a tomb and they raise a Chinese god of tofu or something like that. Sends on a small town, and they kidnap Bruce Campbell to deal with it. And he's like, I don't give a shit if he's the king of Kiss My Ass. What am I doing here? Why why are why are you dragging me out here? And he just plays such an asshole.
Yeah, I thought
I
it
mean,
was
like
fun. I think if you like Bruce Campbell's humor and you like the goofiness of like Army of Darkness and stuff, you'll probably enjoy it.
yeah.
Well, Army of
Another good
Darkness.
one.
I enjoy Army of Darkness, but
Right.
it's my least favorite of the franchise. I mean, the from the three films, of course. I'm not counting the TV
The
show.
remake.
Yeah, and the remake and whatever. Just counting the three films. I mean, Army of Darkness. I like it, but it's like
Yeah,
it's like
definitely
the
a
films
different.
that I watch. Yeah, I mean, I don't watch it as much as I watched the first two.
Right.
Yeah. You can watch the first two and see how they're kind of sequential and such, where the third one, it just kind of went a little too over the top, especially with the comedy. It's like, yeah, we get it. You're Three Stooges fans.
Yeah, it's a little bit kid friendly to me. I don't know. I mean, it's violent. I mean, I wouldn't show it to a child, but I don't know. It's just it doesn't feel like true Evil Dead to me. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Yeah. Well,
Oh no, no, no! It makes perfect
it
sense. It
should
does
be
not feel like
PG or PG-13, but it got an R rating. In fact, it almost got an X rating. Like the MPAA must have hated Sam Raimi
Yeah.
because Goodfellas came out the same year, was R rated, and then Army of Darkness was getting in trouble for stuff. They had to like tone down a few things to make it
well, it
R. It
didn't
makes
feel
no
like a
sense.
true Evil Dead movie because I mean, what made Evil Dead so effective was it was that same Night of the Living Dead thing where you're trapped in an isolated location. You have to make do with what's on hand, and you're dealing with what's on the outside and also what's on the inside. And I mean that to me is what makes movies like that so effective. That's why I
And
love
even
Night of
your
the
loved
Living Dead.
ones too. You have to deal with your loved ones too, because I mean, your girlfriend is gonna turn into a zombie and is gonna try to kill you.
You got your sister in the basement who's screaming at you and laughing at you all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, most of us have sisters that do that anyways, but this one was demonically possessed, so there's no excuse for them.
Yeah. But
I mean,
by the way, you guys enjoyed the remake.
I
I
liked
wasn't a
it.
fan of it.
No, I know some people that liked it and some people that don't. I mean, I personally, I didn't think it was like the worst movie ever. But I mean, there are worse remakes out there for sure.
Oh
But
yeah,
I
Amityville
was
Horror.
I was sort of disappointed. I mean, it wasn't. I wasn't. I was expecting, especially because Sam Raimi was involved. I was expecting something better. You know.
Better. Yeah, and I mean that's something that a lot of hardcore fans are learning nowadays is that just because the name is attached, it doesn't mean anything. I mean,
Yeah.
like video game fans that listen to this podcast, they love the Mega Man series. And if you grew up on Capcom Mega Man games, they were huge. And then they made that Mighty Number Two game, and that's all everybody ever told me about was, oh, it's being made by Inafune because he made the original one. Blah 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 blah. And I looked at it and I'm like, this doesn't look like Mega Man. And it's like, but it's a spiritual successor to Mega Man, and the guy that created Mega Man is making the game.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like Evil Dead, where the remake where it failed for me is it just it did not feel like an Evil Dead movie. It was supposed to be a carefree and independent films that has its own personal charm to it, and just
Yeah.
budget thing. And I'm here to kick my drug habit, and we're here to support you, instead of just a bunch of kids that went out to party in the woods. It's just, as I say so often, you know.
I was a little bit concerned about the new Halloween because everybody was like, "Oh, so good," because John Carpenter is attached to it. I mean, that doesn't mean anything, especially coming from John Carpenter. I mean, if you watch his latest films, you're like, "Oh my god." So
Right.
I was like a little bit concerned. I was like, "Okay, that doesn't mean shit." I mean, doesn't mean shit that Jamie Lee Curtis is in it because Halloween H2O was also a disappointment to me, at least.
It was a disaster.
No, Resurrection was the disappointment.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I forgot about that one. Oh, I mean,
At least H2O, they tried to like chop his head off and end it, and then Resurrection was
What
like,
was the
nope,
one with? What was the one with the haunted house thing with Busta Rhymes in it?
Resurrection.
no.
Something
No, that,
about
H2O is the one where she faked her death and she's a teacher at
yeah.
that private school.
In general, I'm hoping that this becomes a new medium. It's a very, very, very interesting concept, and who knows? You very well could be a part of a trailblazing movement here. I mean, shit, I almost want to go out and find a crappy movie and make it good now.
Hey,
I
what do? Please send it to me because I would love to see it. Really.
yeah.
like I said, I hope that this actually becomes a new thing
No,
because
but you know what? I've talked to a lot of people that are actually against fan editing because they say that, oh my God, you're just trying to be better than the director. You know, you're just being a snob. You know, just like, oh my God, I'm going to improve the director's vision. So I mean, some people just think that they're just completely against it. You know,
Well, they could choose not to
well,
watch it.
uh,
they,
that,
they could choose not to watch it, and assholes, everybody's got one, and they all stink. You know.
yeah,
Speaking of uh, fan edits, like busting out, there was a fan edit of I believe it was Raising Cain with John Lithgow, and
Oh,
I believe that's the one, and I believe the movie theatrically was edited like out of sync, and something like the fan editor took it and did what the director wanted, and so the director found out about it and was like, "Hey, let Shout Factory know about this." And
oh.
the director's cut got restored on Blu-ray because of a fan editor.
yeah, yeah. I actually watched that, and it's actually he actually improved the film like a lot. You know, wasn't a fan of Raising Cain. I mean, when I first saw it, I mean, it's not a horrible film, but I mean, it's like it's like miles from the good films that Brian De Palma did. And
But you would say the studio pretty much butchered it, though. Kind of like Blair Witch 2.
the fan edit of the director's cut is actually pretty good. I mean, I actually enjoyed it. It's pretty good.
Hey, this could launch careers doing this. I mean,
Oh, let's hope
the
so.
res,
Yeah, well, kind
look
of.
at the res, look at.
Well, sorry, I was gonna say the problem
Sorry, go ahead.
is this
Yeah,
underground kind of thing. Like there's always that risk of studios.
but at the same time, isn't that where horror kind of took off? Was underground. Look at Resident Evil 2, the remake that's coming out in January. a lot of the things that we're going to see in this remake, there was a group that's going around remaking the game, and Capcom hired them. Capcom was so impressed with the work that these guys were doing with the fan remake of Resident Evil 2 that instead of bringing legal action against them, they actually brought them on board and said, "Please help us implement your ideas."
Right.
And now these guys are working for Capcom apparently.
No, one thing that I notice, I mean, these days is that the studios, they're listening to the fans a lot more, to actually
Yeah,
hear what the fans want.
it's working.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, in the end, at the end of the day, the fans are gonna watch the film. The fans are gonna pay for it. So I mean, let's just please the fans.
Right.
That's how it used to be, and it's just around that period I became such a snob, especially for horror movies, where like 1998 to 2000, I guess. I well, there's a new movie coming out. Nah, it's just because it was just so much of the same shit. And now that this is coming out thing, and everyone's saying that it's fantastic, I want to see it now.
No, Halloween.
Yeah, the new one. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see it.
Your boy.
Cannot wait to see it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, definitely worth it. I'd say. I just hope that they end it now. They don't need to make a sequel. Just let Michael die.
Yeah, I mean they ruined Jason Voorhees, and now Robert Englund is seeing dollar signs, so we could see another Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Well, I
And you know
heard.
what?
I heard Friday 13th might actually be because of this movie being such a success. They might actually do a similar thing where they ignore the rest of the sequels and have a character from one of the earlier films kind of reprise their role and deal with Jason again. We'll see.
Victor Miller some money, but I mean Robert Englund is seeing dollar signs now, and after the remake for that, ugh.
Awful.
I can see another I can see a Jaws remake.
I
Please
heard
don't ever.
I heard that Jamie Lee Curtis said that if David Gordon Green directs the next Halloween, she would do a sequel for the new one.
That's the other thing too, is that you can do a sequel if it's handled competently by a director who understands and respects the franchise and knows what the hell they're doing. And I mean, apparently, from what I've heard, that this one is very, very good. So why not? If he can do it again.
Well, he wanted to make two, from what I heard, and then like they had the original idea was to do essentially two movies, but the studio or something was like just do one. So I don't know. We'll see.
Seeing as how the movie has made $80 million and it just came out, I think that they might rethink their stance on it.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think there's definitely going to be more.
Just
But
don't
I mean,
kill off Jamie Lee Curtis again.
no,
Yeah, let's
personally,
not do that ever again.
that it shouldn't have a sequel. I mean, I think the movie should end there. I mean, I agree with Rage Killa. I think that
Yeah, because everything was wrapped up in it. For the
yeah,
Lori character, it seemed like her 40-year PTSD and stuff was finally over, and she could have a normal life with her family. That's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to spoil it for Wolfman, but you know what I mean. Like,
Well, no, I absolutely agree.
no. But then
Ended on a
again,
high
it's
note.
the same thing with H2O. She chopped his fucking head off. She could go on with her life, and then resurrection happened, and it was like, no.
And then you get what's his name, the rapper in the
Buster
mask.
Rhymes. Trick or treat,
That was,
motherfucker. Oh god.
hey, you know what? In all honesty, the scene of him yelling at Michael Myers was really the only good thing about that movie.
Yeah, yeah. That
What do you
was
think you're doing? I'm the one who's supposed to be
that was
playing fucking
that
Michael
was,
Myers. He's like, get your ass onto the
that
back and get in there and fucking get with her. To believe this shit if they see two people playing fucking Michael Myers.
it was better than Halloween 5, but that's not saying much because Halloween 5 was pretty bad.
Yeah, you're not really giving it too much of a thing there. Have you heard about Creep? Have you heard about Creep Show though?
Oh, the TV series on Shudder?
Yeah, have you heard about that yet, Sam?
uh, you mean Creep Show, the movie from the '80s?
Yeah, they're gonna do a TV series out of it.
Oh no, no, I haven't heard about that. Really? I mean,
Yeah.
Uh,
I haven't seen the sequel yet. I still need to see Creep Show 2. I only watched the first one.
First one was a masterpiece. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Second
The
one's
second
decent.
one, the second one, I would say it's decent as far as sequels can go.
I
The
would
story,
I would call it Creep Show Leftovers. That's what Creep Show 2 is.
the third one, stay away from that by all possible means. If you see it, throw it out the window, please.
if the
No,
TV
You'll
if the TV series can capture the comic book panels, like if they do that within the TV series, then they might have
yeah.
something pretty cool, you know.
I don't know if the creep show thing has been confirmed or not. The only information that I personally have about it is that it's going to be a TV series. If they can make it like the comic book, but only like with say a Tales from the Crypt type format, I'd be 100% behind that if they did go along with it. But I have heard that Stephen King's son Joe is going to be involved with it, and that works because his son was in the first movie. He was the little kid.
And Nicotero is also going to be involved with it.
It works.
I have a
I can handle that.
I have a friend who's a big fan of Creep Show 2. He says that there's at least one of the stories that's really, really good. I mean, he just loves it. He thinks that he just watch the film for that story alone. I don't know what the story is about, but I mean, he just loves it.
There's
Probably
only
the
two that I
Raft.
can think of. The raft. It's either the raft or it's going to be the last one with the car. Thanks for the ride, lady.
No,
It's probably the Raft. I think
it's
pretty much
the story
everyone's I've
that
talked to always say the Raft.
Yeah, the raft was definitely the more popular of the stories. I think they.
Sorry, what was that?
it's a story that has a lake in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's the raft.
Yeah, it's the rest. Okay.
yeah.
It was very, very good. It was essentially 4 teenagers. They go out on this raft in the middle of the lake, and it looks like a
Don't he?
garbage bag that's floating in the lake and is following them, and it essentially eats them. But
No,
it was a very good story because the whole story is told on that raft in the middle of the lake.
I've only seen Creepshow 2 on VHS. I haven't like rewatched it on in HD, so I'm sure it probably does look like a plastic bag in the lake.
Yeah, it looks like a big black garbage bag.
Uh, I know the Tales from the Dark Side, the movie was originally going to be a Creepshow sequel.
Classic. And I mean, Tales from the Crypt, everybody was like, yeah. And then they heard M. Night Shyamalan was going to be behind it. No, we can do without that.
I wasn't a fan of it going to be on TNT anyways. So.
TNT does good with horror. I mean, look how they did Mr. Joe Bob.
That was how many years ago?
Hey, that was one of the best shows on television.
And you do realize they fired him because new management came in.
Yeah, and boy, did they eat shit because of it.
Yeah.
TNT just did the Alienist. Have you guys seen that?
Aliens?
No, the Alienist.
Uh-uh.
Never heard of that.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. I guess okay. Just let me type. I
Uh,
think.
oh, okay. I see. I see it. It's a drama
See,
series.
TNT has always been kind of funny. I used to watch TNT back in the day when they had Joe Bob Briggs
Yeah.
on the show, and then
Oh, me
they
too.
had
In
they had
USA Up All Night and stuff. Yeah.
Elvira. Yeah, she's still going strong too. It was one of the best reasons to stay up late.
I missed Elvira growing up. She was in the 80s. So for me, it was USA Up All Night with Rhonda Shear and
Oh God,
Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs.
I had Monster Vision and I had Up All Night with
Yep.
Elvira.
No, that's Rhonda Shear.
Uh,
That's not Elvira.
I was being sarcastic.
Oh, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, Rhonda Shear wasn't one of my bags either.
Mhm. Yeah, Joe Bob said they used to make fun of her show.
You blame him?
Hey,
um,
by the way, are you
well,
guys excited for the Pet Cemetery remake?
yeah,
Yes.
I'm optimistic about it. It's one of those things where like I really love the original, but I'm willing to give this a shot. I'll definitely go see it.
I'm excited to see it. I mean, this is a weird thing, and I mean, anybody listening to this who's a parent can relate to it. After I had kids, I could not watch that movie.
Oh, with Gage.
Yeah.
No, I actually heard that a friend of mine who used to love the book, he said that he can't read the book because the book is even more terrifying than the film. I don't know if you
Oh
read
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah. I was a big Stephen King fan growing up. I was reading his books by the time I was 7 years old.
Yeah, same here. And Pet Cemetery was actually the first, so it's like my favorite.
Yeah. Pet Cemetery was a favorite of mine growing up, and then once I became a parent, it was just I can't watch this because kids looking alike like mine, and I just couldn't do it. You know,
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
yeah, I can imagine. A friend of mine, he just said, really, I mean, if you have kids of that age, or if you
yeah,
had kids that age, that scene when he walks into the road and the truck comes is just it's just terrifying. You just can't watch that. It's just
you
terrible.
absolutely can.
Yeah.
You really can't do it. And the funny thing is like when I watched the movie, I just sat down and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this. This was a favorite of mine, you know. And I mean, I'm a fan of Silver Bullet, so I mean, I can sit through some fucking movies. But I sat down and I watched Pet Cemetery like after well, pictures around, so I can't really say too much. But it was just no fair. I was like, oh my god, I'm crying. I can't watch this anymore. It happens, and it was like you didn't plan on it, you didn't expect it to happen. But I mean, the part in me that I did not care for horror movies that had stuff that happened to children like that. There was one movie I remember. It was called Deadly Eyes, and I mean, like I don't kill animals in movies. Like I can't watch that. I can't stand that. But leave the dog alone, type of thing. But this movie was Deadly Eyes, and it was about rats. These rats that ate steroids and grain or something like that, so they grew to be super rats. You know, it's fucking horrible. I mean, they took Chihuahua dogs and they put fucking and dachshunds, and they put these fur suits around them to make them look like rats, and they were just running around doing whatever the hell they wanted. They didn't care, you know. But there was a scene where they came up the stairs of a basement and there was a child in a high chair, and then even growing up I saw that scene and I'm like, so even before I had that thing, but I could sit through Pet Cemetery, but then after that I just couldn't. But I did see the trailer for the new one, and the only thing that's got me freaked out is that I have a cat that looks exactly like Church.
You know, my cat now looks like the old church from the first version.
Yes, so does mine. That's the part that's really freaking me out is because I have a cat, and she's a psychopath. She's only 4 pounds, and we're terrified of her. But she looks exactly like Church from the book cover, the original book cover. Looks exactly like it. And I don't know if I could put photos up in here. And you know what? I don't want to tempt fate and try to do it.
Yeah, you can.
But
You can copy and paste.
I'm not gonna fuck with it right now. I'll do it
Um,
later. We'll put a picture up in the podcast when we upload it.
what about
But
Pet Cemetery 2?
oh, the one with John Connor in it?
Yeah.
No, no.
There you go, Agent Sam. You're looking for a movie to edit. You could probably try and tackle Pet Cemetery 2.
Oh man, but there's one good thing about the Pet Cemetery too. I like the villain. What's his name? The guy.
The punk kid in it, or the parent of him, of the other kid.
You, Rage, you have IMD open like at all times. You should have this open.
Are you thinking of Clancy Brown? Is that who you're thinking of? Who's also in
Jesse
Highlander?
He's like a cop or a sheriff or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
that
actually.
scene. Yeah, that scene when he chased down the wife and son. That was. I don't know why that was pretty creepy though.
No, and there's a scene where he kills like a teenager.
Right. Yeah.
That's like
It had its moments, but it also had some
remember
cheesy moments.
I was like, oh my god. I mean,
Yeah.
because I wasn't expecting he was going to kill because the kid was like young, and he just gave him like this brutal death. I was like, oh my god.
Wow. Even sit through that movie all the way. I just couldn't do it. Speaking of John Connor and bad remakes, did you ever see the
Night of the
Night of the
Demons?
Demons remake? Yep.
No, I didn't. Seen the original, but not the remake.
The original was a classic,
That razor blade death at the end was sick.
and the remake.
The original.
Oh, when she killed the nasty old man.
Yeah. That was some pretty like grody effects, man. Ugh.
Yeah, it
Okay,
was
now
probably
your voice is gone again, and now it's back.
just a hiccup in the connection.
Yeah, yeah, but it's happening a lot. I mean, your conversation, but it's happening a lot.
It's the
Yeah,
Blair Witch.
It's the
yeah.
Oh my god. Blair Witch 2.0. She's gone technological.
She's here to fuck up your internet.
I mean, don't mess with my fucking movie.
How dare you make it good?
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's supposed to be a sheep.
Yeah, that's funny. We have actually managed to come full circle now and go back to that.
Yeah.
And it just what an experience that was to watch. I was like, what an experience watching that because I went in with such bad expectations and what a spin around. I personally I would love to see more work come out of you for a fan edit idea. Psycho 3.
But there, I don't know. What would you do with it?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I mean, there's the
What?
okay. The only thing in the movie that I would change in Cycle 3 is that
Mhm.
ending when you see Norman in the car and he's holding his mother's arm or hand or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that was
think
a that was a studio mandate. That wasn't even the original ending.
Well, do you know what the original story was going to be?
I think I read that it has something to do with Norman and his psychiatrist. That it was going to be played by Janet Leigh again. Is that it?
There was some talk of that, but this might be a good jumping off point for one of us. Is originally Dwayne Duke was going to be a copycat killer, and the whole story about him being a musician going to L.A. was bullshit. He went there on purpose because he wanted to learn from Norman. Didn't you
Okay,
find?
I actually
Didn't
read that Dwayne Dukes was supposed to be Norman's brother.
I never heard that? That's a new one.
I mean, I think that Cycle 3 had like several drafts, like
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, did you ever notice though that suddenly Dwayne went from being himself to completely unhinged? He went
yeah.
from being an asshole to a psycho himself. Because I mean, he's Dwayne, and as lovable a character as he is, it suddenly turns into he's shirtless, he's sweaty, he's singing an Irish folk song. May the Lord bless you and keep you, dear mother Bates. He was insane at that point.
No, actually, I think the character has like three phases. In the beginning with Maureen, he's a total dick, and then when he's hired by Norman, he's more like likable. He even treats her good. Like, oh, don't worry, Angel, nothing's gonna happen to you here, whatever. And then he
Yeah.
turns psycho. He has like three phases. Like,
It's
Kind of like he's a psycho.
yeah.
yeah.
If you want to tackle Psycho 3, is there any other footage released? Like, is there a TV
Uh,
edit or deleted scenes? Like,
Not that
I
I
that would
know.
be something that I'd look into.
I just
I'd
found
look into it
I just
myself.
randomly found this. There's an alternate opening for the TV version.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
All right.
I,
Well, I mean, it's like me personally.
I know
If I was gonna,
originally Anthony Perkins was going to film it in black and white.
I mean, Psycho 2 to me was perfect. Don't touch it. I love that. And I mean,
One thing about Psycho 2 is the soundtrack, Goldsmith soundtrack. I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, all the soundtracks for Psycho they're
oh
just
yeah,
I just love all of them. And they're just so different from each other. Like completely different.
they were masterpieces. They really were because um, when I the YouTube thing. I got invited down to the Friday the 13th video game release party, and I got to hang out with like Sean Cunningham, the director of Part One. I met Tom Savini, and I also met Harry Manfredini. He did the music for Friday the 13th, and I walked up to him, and Harry had a couple drinks in him, so he was pretty jolly, and he explained that his soundtrack was just as much a character that you saw in the movie. The music is supposed to it gives you that sense of calm. It gives you that feeling of dread, and that's where Psycho really, really, really stood out on its own. Is the soundtracks were phenomenal.
Yeah. No, I mean, I heard the last part you saying that, especially the horror genre, we have some soundtracks that are like iconic, like Halloween, Psycho, and The Exorcist, and Suspiria.
Yeah.
What else?
Dawn of the Dead. Dun, 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 dun,
Deep Red. What else? On Elm Street, of course, and Friday the 13th. And well, there's so many. I mean,
The Fog.
Yeah, The Fog.
Soundtracks was The Fog.
Well,
that
I mean,
piano score.
Or the Halloween 3 theme.
Yeah. No, I mean Joe Carpenter's scores. They're all terrific.
Yeah.
I mean,
just John Carpenter is all you need to say at this point.
yeah. I Escape from New York.
Those moody synthesizer scores were amazing.
Yeah, Brad Fidel, who did Terminator 1, 2, and stuff.
He was a Terminator, yeah. And I like the Terminator 1 soundtrack over Terminator 2, to be honest with you.
And to be honest with you, I prefer Terminator 1 over the second one as a film.
Thank you.
Like a lot.
It was the same thing in the second one. They just paid more money.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, but John Connor is just annoying as hell. I mean, he's hasta la vista, baby. I mean, like, shut up. I mean, you're such
Shut up. Yeah, you little shit.
Well, he was still better than the John Connor in T3.
Oh, John Connor is just a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm not a big fan of Edward Furlong, so
no.
I mean, it's just him. Like all his characters for me are just like. I mean,
that screechy voice.
No, he always plays the same character in every movie.
An annoying pain in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I mean, I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just
what made Terminator 1 so good to me it was the basic plot line of it. It was the atmosphere. And the soundtrack, even though it was made by Brad Fidel and it was the same shit, it sounds better coming out of a dirty analog synthesizer than it does coming out of fucking an orchestra.
Yeah.
Like let's put it this way: would Information Society sound better as a synth pop band or as a rock group?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the best way that I can put it.
Yeah. No, I mean it's just like. For instance, I remember, I think it's Halloween 6 that has the theme that plays when Michael is chasing Laurie from the wall of the Doyle house.
The metal version.
Yeah, it's like the same music, but it's like a version with a guitar, and it's like a metal version or something.
Yeah, supposedly the producer's cut has a different score. I don't know. I haven't actually watched the producer's cut.
I think that was it.
You don't need to. Probably a studio screw up, and once again it has to do with them wanting to appeal to the teenage generation. Let's put guitars in it because everybody likes guitars.
I mean, just because you have a song doesn't mean that you can like use all kinds of instruments. I mean, sometimes it just doesn't work,
Yeah.
What's the funny thing about that? Halloween 6 in general, the fact that Halloween 5 they just wrote in a Man in Black because they thought it would be mysterious, and then so the writers of Halloween 6 had to write a purpose to that character.
All things considered, the fact that they connected it to the Doctor from the first one.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool idea. I think Halloween 6 had interesting ideas, but just wasn't executed properly.
No.
But they tried, damn it. They didn't work.
All right, how about this? in the producer's cut, not only does Michael Myers um, this relationship with his niece, Jamie Lloyd,
Yeah.
the child out of that, but the ending is basically Tommy Doyle on the ground and he stops Michael Myers.
Isn't
With
that better
fucking
than him
rocks.
beating him with a pipe and bleeding green blood or whatever it was?
It's all terrible.
No, but I think that in the theatrical cut, I mean, Jamie is impregnated by Michael as well, isn't she?
They don't
I don't
explicitly say it.
know.
I don't think they say it at all.
I think even they realized at that point, yeah, we're sick fucks. We need to stop.
But also, so
Oh
who
boy.
pregnant then if it wasn't Michael?
She was a teenager in the 90s.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to like recheck that information, see if they did explain it or not, because I haven't seen the theatrical version in a long time.
I think they felt that it was just better that it wasn't explained.
That in the producer's cut, it is more. They actually show that Michael was the one who made her pregnant.
Ew.
I think we're supposed to know, but I mean, it's just implied that it was him, you know?
Yeah, they don't imply it; they show it.
Gross.
I mean, like you don't have a man in a hooded cloak come out with like a saxophone and start playing music and things. It's just
Dude. It's the saxophone version of the Halloween theme.
you get the guy coming out from the Lost Boys, and I still believe.
Oh God. Oh.
Oh, come
Man,
on, that song. Actually,
I love that song.
the soundtrack for Lost Boys is it's amazing. I just love it.
It's one of the best. It's not as good as Fright Night soundtrack, but
Yeah,
it's up there.
that's pretty good too. That's pretty good too.
Fright Night is something that you could definitely play any day.
Yeah.
I mean, you could drive that. You could drive down the street playing that shit. You can go and dance in the disco to it. That's just one of the best soundtracks ever.
By the way, did you like the Friday Night with Colin Farrell?
No, hands down, no.
I haven't seen it yet, so I can't say.
They
Uh,
actually tried to base that in Las Vegas.
I haven't even seen Fright Night 2.
The original, where Charlie Brewster inherits his mother's house,
oh,
still living in,
like
and
a sequel,
and
like the new Halloween. You mean?
kind of like that. I believe I heard this like maybe about within the last 6 months. But the thing that I had heard is Charlie Brewster inherits his mother's house, and he's got children now, and Evil Ed is still living in Jerry Dandridge's house. Most that
Okay.
I've heard of it. Apparently Stephen Jeffries, who played Evil Ed, he's embraced the film a lot more than he did. They all eventually come around, you know.